I never thought I'd be that guy, the man who comes home to find his entire life shattered in an instant. But that's exactly who I became the day I walked through my front door and discovered my wife, Ava, in bed with Noah, my closest friend, the man I trusted like a brother. It's been months since that day, but I can still remember every detail. The way the sunlight poured through the windows, the smell of fresh-cut grass outside, and the suffocating silence before everything fell apart. 6 months of deployment in a hellish desert, dodging bullets and IEDs, had been easier than what awaited me at home. Out there, I knew who my enemies were. I knew what to expect. But Ava and Noah? They blindsided me. Noah and I had been friends since basic training. We'd endured long marches, sleepless nights, and grueling drills together. He was the guy who had my back, no matter what. Ava loved him too, or so I thought. She used to joke that Noah was the brother I never had. I trusted him with everything, including my wife. When I got my orders for a 6-month deployment, I worried about leaving Ava alone. She was strong and independent, sure, but the last time I'd been away on duty, things had taken a turn that made me question if she'd be okay on her own again. The first time I deployed, Ava struggled. She didn't tell me at first. She didn't want to worry me. But I found out through one of her texts that things weren't as fine as she'd pretended. She'd been dealing with intense loneliness, anxiety, and nights where she barely slept. Being a military wife is no easy life, and Ava was unprepared for how quiet and isolating it would be. What hit me hardest was a phone call she made one night, about 3 months into my first tour. She was crying, her voice shaky. "David, I don't think I can do this anymore," she'd said. "The silence, it's eating me alive. I feel like I'm going crazy." I felt powerless. Thousands of miles away, stuck in a foreign land, all I could do was tell her to hold on. "It's just a few more months, Ava. I'll be home before you know it. You're stronger than this. I know you are." I encouraged her to go out more, spend time with friends, keep herself busy. For a while, it seemed to work. But then I got another call, this time from a neighbor. "David, I don't know how to say this, but Ava's been spending a lot of time with some guy. I think you should know." It turned out she'd been hanging out with a co-worker of hers. Nothing physical had happened, or so she claimed. But the emotional connection they'd formed was enough to make me question everything. When I confronted her about it during one of my rare phone calls, she broke down. "I was lonely, David. He was just there to talk to. I swear it didn't mean anything." I believed her. Or maybe I wanted to believe her. Either way, we worked through it. And when I got home, I made her promise she'd be honest with me if things ever got that bad again. So, when I got my orders for another 6-month deployment, I knew I couldn't leave her completely alone. I needed someone I could trust to check in on her, make sure she wasn't falling apart like before. That's where Noah came in. "Noah," I said to him the day before I left, "I need you to look out for her. Stop by the house now and then, make sure she's okay. You know how she gets when I'm away for too long." He grinned, that easygoing smile I'd seen 1,000 times. "You got it, brother. Don't worry about a thing. I'll keep an eye on her." And I believed him. I believed them both. The day I came home, I wanted it to be a surprise. I didn't tell Ava I'd managed to catch an earlier flight. I could already picture her reaction, the joy in her eyes, the way she'd throw her arms around me. I stopped at a roadside flower stand on my way home and picked up a bouquet of her favorite lilies. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Noah's car parked out front. It didn't set off any alarms in my head. He'd been looking out for Ava just like I'd asked. Maybe he was dropping something off, or maybe Ava had invited him over for lunch. I got out of the car, flowers in one hand, duffel bag in the other. The house looked the same as I'd left it, quiet and peaceful. But as I approached the front door, something felt off. "Ava," I called out as I stepped inside, setting the flowers on the coffee table. My voice echoed through the silent house. No answer. I walked through the living room and into the kitchen. Everything was in its place, but it felt wrong. Too still, too empty. My heart began to race. I climbed the stairs, my boots heavy on the wooden steps. That's when I heard it, muffled laughter coming from our bedroom. I froze, my hand gripping the banister. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe they were watching a movie, or maybe Noah had brought over some stupid joke to share with Ava. But the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. I walked down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and that's when I saw them. Ava and Noah, together, in my bed. Time seemed to stop. My brain struggled to make sense of what I was seeing. Ava's hair was a mess, her face flushed. Noah was shirtless, scrambling to pull a sheet over himself. "David!" Ava gasped, her eyes wide with shock. Noah stammered, It's not what it looks like, man. Not what it looks like. Are you kidding me?" My blood boiled. 6 months away, and this is what I come home to? The two people I trusted most in the world betraying me in the worst way possible. I dropped my duffel bag and lunged at Noah. All the anger, the betrayal, the humiliation, it exploded in that moment. My fist connected with his jaw, and he stumbled back, crashing into the nightstand. "David, stop!" Ava screamed, but I wasn't listening. Noah tried to fight back, but he was no match for me. I'd spent 6 months in a war zone, and I had more anger in me than he could ever handle. Blow after blow, I let him feel every ounce of my fury. "You were supposed to look out for her," I shouted, my voice shaking with rage. "You were my friend, Noah." I don't know how long the fight lasted. It felt like hours, but was probably only a minute or two. When Noah stopped struggling, I grabbed him by the arm and dragged him out of the bedroom. Ava ran after us, clutching the sheet around her. "David, please, stop! Don't do this!" she begged. But I was beyond reason. I dragged Noah down the stairs and out the front door, throwing him onto the lawn. He was still half naked, scrambling to cover himself with his hands. Ava stood on the porch, tears streaming down her face. "David, please," she sobbed. "Let him go. This is between us." I turned to her, my chest heaving. "Between us? You did this, Ava. You and him." I grabbed her arm and pulled her outside. The sheet she was clinging to fell away, and she let out a shriek, trying to cover herself. By now, the neighbors had started to gather. Curtains were pulled back, and doors opened. People peeked out, curious about the commotion. Some stepped onto their porches, their phones out, recording the scene. Ava and Noah stood there, exposed and humiliated, as I shouted at them. "You want to betray me? Fine. Let the whole world see who you really are." Someone in the crowd yelled, "What's going on?" Another voice said, "Is that Ava and Noah?" Laughter rippled through the gathering. I could see the shame on Ava's face, the way she tried to cover herself with her hands. Noah didn't even look at me. He was too busy scrambling to get his pants from the lawn. "David, stop," Ava cried. "You're making it worse." "Worse? You think this is bad? You haven't seen anything yet," I spat, turning my back on her. Eventually, Noah managed to get dressed and made a run for his car. Ava tried to follow him, but I blocked her path. "You don't get to come back in this house," I said coldly. "Not after what you've done." "David, please," she sobbed. "Let me explain." "Explain what? That you cheated on me with my best friend? That you betrayed me while I was risking my life overseas?" She didn't have an answer. She just stood there, crying, as the neighbors continued to watch. I turned and walked back inside, slamming the door behind me. The aftermath was a mess. Ava and Noah both pressed charges against me for assault. My commanding officer got wind of the incident, and I had to deal with a formal investigation. It felt like my life was falling apart, but at the same time, I felt a strange sense of relief. The neighborhood was buzzing for weeks. Everyone had seen Ava and Noah's humiliation, and they weren't shy about talking about it. Ava moved in with her sister, and I didn't hear from her again, except through her lawyer. Sitting in my own lawyer's office weeks later, I listened to him go over the charges against me. Multiple counts of assault, public humiliation, even destruction of property. Noah claimed I'd broken his phone during the fight. "You could face serious jail time, David," my lawyer said. "The judge isn't going to go easy on you if you act like you don't care." But the truth is, I didn't care. "Do I regret what I did?" I said, leaning back in my chair. I don't regret it one bit." My lawyer sighed, rubbing his temples. "David, you need to show remorse. If you go in there with this attitude, you're not helping yourself." "I'm not looking for help," I said firmly. "I did what I had to do. They betrayed me. They deserved what they got." I think about that day a lot. The look on Ava's face when I caught her. The panic in Noah's eyes as I dragged him out of the house. The laughter of the neighbors as they stood there, recording the whole thing. Do I regret it? Ava and Noah destroyed the life I thought I had. They took my trust, my love, and threw it away. And for what? A cheap thrill? They'll never understand the pain they caused me. But at least they'll remember the day I stood up for myself. And if I have to pay the price for that, so be it.